Good morning. Well, I should say good afternoon. I'm Jessie Silverman, the speech pathologist at Big Blue Canopy, coming in live from a remote location at home. And I have a special guest appearance from my 6-year-old Beckett. Beckett, can you say hi?
Hi.
And today we are going to go through some of the steps involved with creating a social story. So just to provide you with a little bit of background, what a social story is a social script used with kids who have difficulty participating in various social situations. The social stories walk the child through social sequences using scenarios so they can understand the expectations and ideal desired behaviors in these social situations that they might have difficulty with. So this could actually be used during this time as kids are adapting and going through major changes. Going to the doctor with all the illnesses. There are a lot of kids that have anxiety over that. So doing these social stories can help walk them through that and give them strategies for staying calm and what the ideal expected behavior is and outcome. Or when kids are adapting from being away from their school or teachers. This is probably hard on a lot of kiddos as well right now, so you could use a social story to go through that as well. Or maybe going to a different child care provider right now as children adapt to that. So there's a lot of real life situations right now that these can be ideal for walking kids through that and giving them strategies to adapt. So just to go through some of the basics on how to write a social story. Social stories include descriptive sentences and directive sentences. It's recommended that you do 2 descriptive sentences for every directive sentence, and I'll get into what each of those sentences look like. Descriptive sentences can be factual sentences, so like defining like those WH questions, like what you're doing, where you're doing it, why you're doing this. So an example of that could be an opening sentence saying, I go to the doctor when I am sick. Perspective sentences could be, sometimes I get nervous when I have to see the doctor. Can you go turn that off, please?
What is it?
Elliot's playing music. Go turn that off. He'll be right back. Cooperative sentences could be, when I get nervous, I can take deep breaths to calm down. Affirmative sentences would be, staying at the doctor's office is good, or staying calm at the doctor's office is good. So just defining and making an affirmation like this is a good thing when you can do this. So giving them that ideal outcome. Directive sentences, so for every 2 of the descriptive sentences, which I just went over, you're going to have a directive sentence. So those sentences can provide direction and guidance to the child or give them a sense of control with writing the social story. So examples of those would be directive sentences to guide the child could be, I will ask my mom for help. Or like if they're having difficulty on the bus, I will ask the bus driver. Or I can tell the bus driver if something's happening. And then a control sentence would be, if I get upset, I can hug my mom. Hey, buddy, I need you to turn it off, okay? Sorry. As all you moms can relate right now, this is an adaptation for all of us too. So preparing the story, first what you're going to want to do is pick the topic to prepare the story. So defining the situation, what they're going to go through that might be difficult for them. And then you're going to write the text with those 2 descriptive sentences for every directive sentence. And involving the child in as much as possible in the writing the social story will provide a sense of ownership for the child and increase compliance with those expected outcomes. And then using pictures, if you can use actual photographs, that's ideal. So Beckett, when we walk through his social story in a minute, we're going to go through some of the pictures of a real life situation for him. If you don't have the actual photographs, you can find images like Boardmaker images or images online. Giving those visuals, because a lot of our kids are visual learners, are ideal with the social stories just to increase their understanding. And then you're going to present the story. You want to do this when the child is in a ready to learn, attentive state. If there's a lot of distractions, it might not be a good time to go through it as kids are not going to be attending as well. You're going to want to present the story multiple times to increase the child's understanding as well. So try to discuss personal experiences and real life situations to connect to the story. And then following presentation of the story, after you have read it several times, you're going to keep exposing them because this will help improve their understanding and what's expected, those ideal behavioral outcomes. You're going to want to provide frequent positive feedback when they actually are exhibiting these ideal behaviors, like, oh, good job, I'm so proud of you. When we went to the dentist today, you kept a calm body by squeezing your squishy or taking deep breaths. So just encouraging those expected behaviors. And then you're going to want to keep the social stories easily accessible for our kiddos so they can reread them as necessary to review those expectations and desirable behaviors because sometimes, they're not always going to follow through with what is expected. So you're going to want it there like, oh, you know what? We really kind of had a hard time today at the doctor's office. Why don't we go through our social story again so we can figure out like what we should do next time? So it'll just reinforce their understanding. So now we're going to walk through the steps of how to create a social story. I already outlined mine with a kind of like a fill in the blank just for the sake of time to do with Beckett. But if you are able to spend an extended amount of time, there's different templates that you can find online. So where you can have the child, if they are of age to be able to write in their responses, that's great to involve them with that. Or you can just fill in the blanks and write it out for them. But like I said, it's very good to have the child involved as much as possible because then they feel like they have a sense of ownership and control in the situation. Because ideally, they're going to be in control of their behaviors and their emotions in these situations. So we're going to walk through one together. And ours is actually going to be a real life situation that Beckett's going to be experiencing later this year. Can you tell them what's going to happen later this year?
We're going to get a new cochlear implant.
Yeah, so Beckett's going to get a cochlear implant later this year. So show them. 2 years ago, Beckett got an implant put in on his left ear, but now later this year, he's going to go and get one put in on his right ear where his hearing aid is. So we're going to walk you through a social story that could prepare him for that later this year. Okay, you ready to go through it? Let's put this down so that they can see what you're participating in with me.
I can read it.
Okay, so our title for this would be what?
Going to the
Hospital
for surgery.
Yeah, going to the hospital for surgery. All right, so our opening sentence is going to be one of those descriptive factual sentences, just what we're doing. So I have for our first sentence, what do I have?
I will go to the hospital to have surgery on my ear.
Yeah, so our first sentence is, I will go to the hospital to have surgery on my ear. So telling what we will be doing in the situation. My next sentence is going to involve the emotions that might occur. So when I have surgery, I feel, how do you feel sometimes, Beckett?
Nervous.
Yeah, so like I said, if I had extra time to spend on this, I would have Beckett write in these responses. But for the sake of time, I'm going to fill them in today. All right, so then our next sentence is going to explain the sequences of events that are going to occur. So first, I'm going to check into the front desk and waiting room with a calm body. So Beckett, I can keep a calm body by doing what? What are some things you can do to keep a calm body?
Squeezing my squishy.
Yeah, by squeezing your squishy. So show him how you do that. So for Beckett, this keeps him calm. Or what else can you do?
Take a deep breath.
Yeah, show us how you do that to stay calm. Yeah, so I'll write in those responses. So by squeezing my squishy and taking a deep breath. And then I'm also going to involve some of the pictures that I have from his last surgery. So Beckett, remember when you were waiting in the waiting room when you were little? Look what you're doing to stay calm. What are you doing?
Hugging my stuffy lemon.
Yeah, so Daddy and I were so proud of you that day when you were able to do that and keep a calm body in the waiting room. So we're going to try to do that again. So just involving making those connections to past experiences or real life situations. All right, and then the next sequence would be when the nurse calls my name, I will walk back to a small room. I will sit on a chair or a bed. They will ask me questions, take my temperature, and look in my ears. It is okay. This is not, is it scary or not scary?
It is scary. It's not scary.
Yeah, it's not scary because remember, look, do you look scared in this picture?
No, but I'm just like, nah, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, so another picture of Beckett when he had his surgery 2 years ago. Remember, you were sitting on Dad's lap and the nurse was asking you questions and taking your temperature, and you did such a good job. You kept a calm body, and it was not scary, right? It did not hurt. Okay. And then the nurse will ask me to change into a gown. So, another picture. Do you remember when you had to wear this gown? Mm-hmm. Here, pay attention for me. Yeah, so Beckett had to wear a gown when he had his surgery. And this is okay because it will hurt or it will not hurt.
It will not hurt.
It will not hurt. So Beckett remembers last time he had to wear this, it did not hurt.
And it just feels like changing your own clothes.
Yeah, perfectly fine. So after Mom and Dad and I talk to the nurse, I will go back with her to the operating room. I will ride on a stretcher. Do you remember what a stretcher is? Yeah, so it's like this table with wheels. So you're sitting on it in this picture. You remember that? Yeah. And this is okay because will you be safe or not safe?
I will be safe.
Be safe, good. There might be bright lights in the operating room. I will have to wear a mask. Do you remember when you had to wear a mask? Yeah. And it will be okay. This will hurt or it will not hurt?
It will not hurt.
It will not hurt. I will get tired and fall asleep. What can you do to stay calm while you're falling asleep in the room?
Hugging your stuffed animal.
Yeah, so let's write that in our blank. So I can hug my stuffed animal. So by having the child fill in the blanks and tell you some of the things they're going to do, it gives them that sense of control like I talked about in the ownership. Like, I'm in charge of my body. This is what I can do to make sure I follow through with what's expected. Okay. When I wake up from surgery, Mommy and Daddy will be with me. I might feel a little dizzy or tired. Remember when you woke up? So this is when Beckett woke up from surgery. He was a little dizzy and tired. Do you remember when that happened? But it's okay because you will be
fine.
Yeah, will you be safe or not safe?
I will be safe, but you just feel a little sick.
Yeah, just a little bit. Beckett was a little sick when he came out of the anesthesia, but it was okay because you were fine.
Did I have to ride in a wheelchair?
Yep, and you had to ride in a wheelchair. I will go home after surgery with Mom and Dad. I will feel better in a few days. Going to the hospital is so much better when I have a calm body. And look, do you remember? So this was you recovering, and in a few days, do you remember you felt good?
Better.
Yeah, fine or not fine? You felt?
Better.
Yeah.
But what did I have a Band-Aid on for?
That was just because they had to do something to your arm. So that would be the social story, concluding, with the expected outcome. Going to the hospital with a calm body is so much better versus, not having a calm body. So it gives them that ultimate goal and expectation, giving them the tools. Okay, I can hug a stuffed animal. I can squeeze a squishy. I can take deep breaths. Those are all the strategies to help them follow through with the ultimate goal of being calm and not being anxious when they go to the doctor's office. All right, so that kind of concludes everything we were going to talk about today with the strategies of how to create a social story and go through with everything. Like I said, there are templates online that can kind of walk you through how to write them if you do feel like this is something your children can do at home that will help them adapt to some of these changes going on in the environment in the world right now. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. And then next week, we will be doing live, Facebook Live at noon, and we're going to be focusing on Brain Gym. Julie Horton, our PT, and Patty Wagner, our OT, I believe, will be talking about that next week. All right, thanks for tuning in.
Bye.